All right, we're on chapter 2. And I like to do that these screencasts for you because I know it'll take only 15 minutes instead of me droning on in front of the room for a long time. Very, very important subjects today. Interpersonal communications, personal health, interpersonal dynamics. And it's very important that the healthcare worker be on their A game for all of this. You have to be very accepting of others' values, be very tolerant. You have to be a good communicator, a good leader when needed, good with technology. You have to be ethical and maintain a code of for your profession, and also be very aware of the legal considerations in the field. So what are interpersonal skills? Somebody with good interpersonal skills can communicate well, can make decisions and act independently, and demonstrate a sincere compassion for others. If you do not have compassion and you're thinking about going into the healthcare field in any direct patient care area, you may be in the wrong field. Compassion really is key if you're going to enter into any of the professions that don't involve just dealing with technology. You have to be very aware of culture, and we'll spend quite a bit of time on transcultural health issues, but addressing people by their former name, explaining why you need to get the information you do, understand really all the issues around transcultural health and how that might get in the way of taking care of patients, and also be aware that most cultures prefer direct eye contact. However, cultures in the Eastern countries do not. You got to respect dietary preferences and be clear about what you're going to do in your procedures, and have a great deal of respect for the family as well. That goes across all races, religions, and cultures. When you are a caregiver, typically you're going to be a caregiver of not only the client but also their family. You have to appreciate what makes up cultural diversity. The age, the gender, the education, religion, ethnicity, national origin are just some of the factors that influence the delivery of care. Being self-aware of your personality, and we're going to spend a lot of time on this in our journey of self-discovery, your own characteristics that may or may not get in the way of taking care of patients. If you have a resting, unhappy face, I'm sure you know the other term, I'll tell you, because you'll be on rotation and people are going to notice that and think you're a grumpy cat or something. If you have negative body language that makes you look closed off, or if you're leaning against the wall looking like a bored teenager, that's not going to fly in this program. So your actions and your behaviors can make or break some of your rotations. Your habits, if I see you picking at your face, I'm going to tell you that's why your face is broken out. Never touch your face with anything but the back of your hand or a washcloth. And all other kind of habits. I see you picking and twitching and twirling your hair and looking at split ends instead of paying attention to the professional that's in front of you. You're going to hear about that. And any attitudes that are formed from your personal values, if they're getting in the way of any of our rotation situations or the class or group dynamics, you will hear about that. Characteristics of a good healthcare worker. You have to, of course, be a good communicator. You have to dress neatly and appropriately. I'm going to make this a little bigger. You have to have good appearance, good posture, be patient, be tactful, be sincere, take responsibility for your own actions, and we are going to spend a lot of time on that. If you make a mistake or somebody calls you out on something, you own it, apologize. Everyone's human, everyone makes mistakes. What people can't respect is when you play a game of mirrors and try to make it seem like it's everybody's fault but yours. Be willing to give and take directions. Be very flexible. Routines for healthcare providers are very sporadic and unpredictable. Have a sense of humor in appropriate ways. Accept criticism. Be ethical, and have integrity and show initiative, because it's hard work. Abraham Maslow created the Abraham Maslow hierarchy of need, which is really important for what kind of a great jumping off point to understand child development and understand the needs of others. People strive to meet their most basic needs first, and it's really like it is a pyramid. It's almost like stair steps. You've got to be successful at one before you can go on to the other. And if you try to fast forward something but you don't maybe feel safe, or you're not getting your basic needs met, it's a foundation that's kind of rocky. So you want people to develop and have a very strong foundation. You want their physiologic needs for food, clothing, shelter, air, all that basic needs have to be met first. And then you've got to feel safe. You got to feel like you're living in a house that a bear can't get into, or that you're working in an environment where somebody's not going to tear you apart emotionally. You have to feel free from any kind of danger. And then once you've gotten that basic needs met and feel safe, then you can start to look outside yourself and meet the social needs that you might have through friendship, family, and feel a sense of belonging. And everyone wants that sense of belonging. Even those odd kids who all think they're so unique and dress black trench coats and stuff, oddly, they all look very similar. And once you feel connected and safe and secure, you start to feel like you can appreciate what's good about yourself. Your confidence rises. You have good self-esteem. And it's really all on a journey of self-actualization. When you feel like your purpose in life has been fulfilled, when you've met the pinnacle of your life, and it never really ends. It's always a journey. And the more self-actualized people tend to have the strongest foundations in all of the other areas. So then Erikson, another child development psychologist, his theory of personal development, again, is like stair steps. If you don't, in a foundation, if you're not solid in one area and move fast forward to the next, you're going to feel weak and not really secure. You know, kids who've been pushed academically where they feel like they have to read when their parents feel like they have to read when they're 3. They're all kind of a little emotionally immature because they didn't get to be fully 3, some of them, and still play parallel and not be pushed. So it's a delicate balance, meeting the needs of children from birth and all the way through old age. These are the stages of Erikson's life, and we're going to talk about those in detail. So I'm going to bypass this slide because we're going to do something a little more in depth with this at a later date. Good personal health, personal grooming, good nutrition, sleep, exercise, posture. You need glasses, you got to get glasses. Nobody wants you making any mistakes because you can't see well, or driving all around. You guys are going to have to drive everywhere if you can't see well. If you don't shower, you don't use deodorant, you don't wash your hair, you have grubby teeth, you don't shave, and all the boys have to be clean shaven when they go on rotation. It's just my rule. You don't have fresh clothes and you don't wash your clothes either when you're sitting in class or out on rotation, I will call you out on it in a heartbeat. I have no problem addressing it. Dirty nails, no place for it here. Dirty hair, no place for it here. Not well rested, no place for it here. You are going to be treated like a healthcare professional, and my expectations of you will be like a healthcare professional. So if I have to address any of these personal grooming needs, I do it from a place of personal growth on your end, not to embarrass anybody. But nobody wants to sit next to the stinky kid in class. Enough said on that. We're going to do a stress project. We always start the year with our stress time management project. It's very important that you guys know you're entering into a stressful time in your life with senior year, but also you're entering possibly into an occupation that's filled with stress, and a lot of medical conditions can happen as a result of that. Time management is always going to be important, never more than now for you guys, but as you go on in your careers, it'll become very important as well. You've got to stay focused, organized, and decide, what tools are going to work best for you. There's some stress management techniques that I'm sure you read about in your book, and we'll be talking about those and maybe brainstorming some good stress management techniques. The problem-solving method is pretty straightforward, and we did this with the adventure course, I'm guessing, even though I'm taping this ahead of time. And I will come back to that many times, and listening to all ideas in the brainstorming process and developing a plan and implementing it and then evaluating it. Communication goes across many areas: reading, writing, hearing, touching. There's spoken language, unspoken language, and we're going to learn how we communicate and how others interpret that. The Health Insurance Accountability and Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, it also deals with information and communications to keep patients' information secure, their written information as well as information that you may feel compelled to share verbally, but as we learned in Chapter 1, that is not an option. What happens in the clinical areas and on rotation stays there. Only the patients, people directly involved with that patient, need to know, and family members aren't even privy to that information without the patient's consent. Part of your career process will involve setting goals, and that'll be part of career part 1 and part 2, and also part of your, really to maximize your senior year. It'll be a part of your plan for the year. So anyway, back to communication. Verbal communication, 7% of the message is conveyed with words. Only 7%. 38 by the tone of the voice. Says a lot, obviously. 55% by nonverbal. So we speak volumes with our facial expressions and our body posture, much more so than the way we speak or even how we sound. So we have to be aware of that. Good listening guidelines. Ask for clarification. Don't fake it, especially when it's very important matters like healthcare. Be prepared for the discussion. Be open and friendly with your posture. Don't cross your arms and scowl. Evaluate the discussion for accomplishments and feelings. Check in all the time. Find a quiet place if you have to talk to somebody. You guys have better hearing than I do, but I can only hear one thing at a time. I can't be in a noisy area having any meaningful conversation. Barriers to communication. Who wants advice? You don't want to come across as closed-minded or commanding. You don't want to be on your phone. This is a huge issue. You guys know. We'll talk a lot about it. Judgmental people, people who lecture, people who moralize. That's a big issue with all this presidential stuff. Calling names, also a big issue for this presidential election year. Giving all the answers, which I'm very guilty of. I always think I have to problem solve that. Listening and then tuning people out, giving people orders, preaching, prejudging, all of these things, stereotyping and threatening, they're really barriers to good communication. So you have to be aware of that. Your body language, your nonverbals. Remember, 55% of what people hear is your eye contact, your appearance. Again, it's very important that you are well groomed, and I'm going to be writing everybody about that. Right down to your hairdos, and that messy bun is not going to happen on rotation. Your hair will be up and styled, girls, just so you know. None of that piling a messy bun on top of your head and calling that a professional look. But anyway, your gesture, how close you stand to people, the proximity, and how fast you speak. If you touch people, reactions to smells, it's very important in the hospital not to respond. Everyone's dignity must be as important as the direct care, is maintaining their dignity. I'm just going to go back to this last slide. Again, the inflection and pitch and tone and volume of your voice speaks volumes. So that was really a quick overview of a very important chunk of information that we will talk about again. The way you communicate, your personal appearance, your own values, your own goals, how to manage your stress so that you don't put that stress on other people. All of those things are going to be really key this year in transforming you into a professional. And I'll just end this unit by telling you that when we go out on rotation, Ellen and I often hear from department heads and other professionals that the questions that the students ask from New Vision, their physical appearance, their attentiveness, they're actually being well rested, all of that does not go unnoticed. They feel like our students are better prepared than the nursing students from Arnott, from Corning, from Alfred, from Mansfield, that they ask better questions, that they are much more appreciative and attentive, and just overall much more professional. And a lot of Chapter 2 and what you learn from this and what you take in will help to mold you into the professional that you will be this year. So I feel like this is one of the most important chapters, even though it's not the kidney or the digestive system or reproductive system. This is the kind of meat and potatoes of how we interact with other people and what success we enjoy because of the way we manage our own stress and our goals and the way we communicate. So enough about that, and we'll do some activities around this. Thank you for listening.